excited to begin our hashtag Why Get a Mentor podcast. We've got an amazing guest for today's podcast. We have Mary Abbajay. Mary is the author of the best-selling Managing Up, How to Move Up, Win at Work, and Succeed with Any Type of Boss. She's also the founder of the Career Stone Group. Mary, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Garrett, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on your show because I love your topic. I love what you're doing, and I love seeing young people change the world. So I am thrilled and honored to be here.
So I appreciate that immensely. I would love to dive in about you. I always like to ask, how did you get to where you're at? Those are always great stories, but they're also very long. What I'd love to specifically hone in on is how have mentors helped you get to where you're at today? I'd love if you could share a story. I think stories are powerful because people can kind of relate to them in their own personal lives. And so when we share stories, we can kind of see parallels between how our worlds can relate to somebody else's world. Do you have any stories of how mentors helped you get to where you're at today?
Oh my goodness, what story don't I have? I mean, mentors have been so powerful for me. So I'm one of these people that when I started out in life, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I did this job and this career and this career. And some of them were very different from each other. And I found that what mentors are most helpful for me was when I was starting on a new professional venture, right? When I was starting into a new industry or a new profession and really finding someone who had more experience to really guide me through. One of the most powerful mentors I had was the mentor I had when I started becoming a consultant. So I had gone to Georgetown University to get my postgraduate certificate degree, like my master's. And one of the professors who I just thought was fabulous, well, actually two professors that were so fabulous, I just sort of begged, borrowed, and stole their time. And eventually, when the program was over, I wrote them this thank you note. And I didn't even ask them to be my mentors. And the next thing I knew, they were inviting me to come shadow them on projects. They included me on projects. They gave me some of my first gigs. Whenever, even to this day, it's been 15 years. If I called them, they would pick up and they would do anything to help me. And it was really, as you're starting out as a consultant, that was really powerful. These people made a lot of money. And to give me their time for free, all because of for them it was altruistic. They saw something in me probably that they liked, but they wanted to give back, and they wanted to give back, I think, not only to me as a person, but they also wanted to give back to the profession. So there's also what I really learned about mentoring was people mentor also not only to help you, but to help if they care about their profession or their industry, to help that become a better profession, a stronger industry, so that people who are entering it would be good people and not bad people, if that makes sense.
I love that. I love that perspective. I think that's so true. Mentors see something in you that you may not see in yourself. And it sounds like that absolutely was the case with your story. So if I'm hearing you right, what had happened was when you were in your postdoc and you were meeting with your professors who, in your mind, you thought, okay, wow, these people are just crazy. They would never have time for me. You ended up finding out that they were a whole lot more helpful than you had realized, and this is a question I have later, but I think it's important to maybe discuss right now. In your experience, are people genuinely or generally helpful?
I really think so. And that's something for someone like me. I'm always I'll figure it out by myself. I'm not going to ask for help. If I ask for help, I'm going to be weak. I don't want to look vulnerable. And so I always thought, well, no one's going to want to help me. But the truth is, people are dying to help other people, I find, if you're not too needy, right? If you have to play your role, right? But I've been so amazed in my career journey how just by asking for help, people will help you. And it's really made me want to help other people more. So it's like that virtuous circle, it makes me want to pay it forward when I see how generous people are with their time and their knowledge and their wisdom. So yes, I think you're absolutely right. People will help if you ask.
I think one of the things that you had explained that I think is very common, but I'd love to learn your advice for how to overcome that fear of these people are so above me. They're way ahead of me. I can't believe they would take any time. So often people let that be the block that stops them from even reaching out and even asking. How did you overcome that block? And how did you overcome that block? I guess that's really the question.
Well, I think it's a block I'm still continually overcoming. I have to sometimes force myself to reach out. But what I learned that was really helpful, at least for me, was not to ask for the world. So make an easy ask, make an ask for a cup of coffee, 15 minutes, have something really specific that you want to learn about. Build that relationship. I don't I would never have gone to anyone, I still haven't, will you be my mentor? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's not who I am. And so what I have done, the way I've gotten over that block, is asking people for specific pieces of advice, specific pieces of guidance in a specific time frame around a specific thing. And then I let that blossom from there. So that's really helped me to be able to do that.
Yeah, I like that, because I think that one of the interesting points that you bring up within that whole statement is that, one, you're not asking for too much in the initial conversation. But the second and the biggest thing is that there are some people where you just naturally hit it off. Like, boom, like right off the bat, you hit it off and it's going amazing. Some people, it takes some, I guess, more conversations. And sometimes some people you think are going to be the best mentors for you end up not giving you the time of day or not giving you the advice you want to hear. And, oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that you're absolutely right, or the advice that you want to hear, and that's really key. And it's also really key, it's one of my tips for the end, but it's really key for you to understand, or for me or anyone to understand what it is it that you really want from this mentor. Do you want coaching? Do you want feedback? Do you want advice? Do you want a sponsorship? Do you, what is it that you are looking for them? And to be clear in your own mind, and to be clear in your own mind first, so that you can be clear with the mentor. Because I've seen a lot of mentoring relationships where the mentor doesn't really know what the mentee wants, right? The protege isn't clear. The protege doesn't bring anything to the conversation. You have, it's a role. So you have to bring, as a protege or a mentee, you have to know what your role is, and you have to bring something to the mentor so that they can help you.
I think that's a good point. But I also think that as a mentor, if you, I think as the relationship continues to build and grow, one of the things that I encourage people that are in the quote unquote mentor role is that they come prepared with some thoughts or questions or things for the protege to work on as well, or the person that they're mentoring. Because I believe that it shouldn't all just be reactive. I think if you're coming in thinking like, hey, like you come to me with questions and I'll answer them, eventually that protege is going to, may not actually have the question. I think sometimes mentors can see the questions you should be asking but haven't asked yet because you haven't realized that's the question you should be asking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But in order to do that, the mentor has to know why you're being mentored, right? So they want, I think because you were right, that they have that role to actually help see things that the mentee doesn't see, the pathways. And I think the more clear so I could have a mentor say, like, I want to think about my career pathing. So looking for opportunities, how do I do this? How do I grow this? What I don't want from my mentor is to be like, oh, you're missing that comma. Oh, you should use like being clear around that sort of the area you want mentoring, I think is very helpful so that both can do their jobs.
That's a great point. I think that makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about mentoring.
So I would say one more thing, because I get called a lot to do mentoring for people. And, as a mentor, someone who does mentoring, I really do need that protege to come to me with at least the initial what it is that they're looking to get. Like, how is this relationship going to help them? Where are the areas they want my help in? Because that will help me kind of craft the right questions, right? To understand the right feedback, to understand what role they need me to play, which part of my expertise will be most helpful to them.
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense. So being clear about what you want. I think sometimes people in mentoring relationships, they have an idea of what they want, but sometimes it's something that manifests over time. Like maybe what you initially wanted can change over time. Is it okay, I guess in your experience, is it okay to iterate those thoughts on what you want as a protege?
Oh, I think absolutely. And that's, I think, when you have a really good, strong mentoring relationship, it will go into other areas and it should naturally flow that way. And at any point during that relationship, it's up to the mentor and the protege to be like, oh, I'm not really the best person to help you with that. Or let's bring in this other person to help you with that. So I think that you should always keep it fluid and open, because you may not even be tapping into all the great things your mentor can give you if you keep it too like time boxed or sandwiched. And, which brings me to another thing that I do a lot of and I'm a big fan of. I call it just-in-time mentoring. So instead of having like one mentor in my life, I have a series of like mini mentors, different people that I'm going to call on for different things or will help me through different areas of my life. And I want to encourage people to think of it like that, because sometimes I think trying to find that one mentor, that unicorn mentor that's going to make or break your career is really hard. But there's lots of people that you can use as mini mentors.
I love that. I think you're absolutely right. I think it's not just about having one piece of advice, but having a multiple board that you can come to, that you can go to, that can give you advice, almost like your own board of advisors.
Yeah, your own kitchen cabinet. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I love that. So let's talk about mentorship and work. How
Okay.
does mentorship play a role in the workforce to you? Does like mentorship help make you more engaged as an employee, or does mentorship help you, I guess, connect greater with the company culture when you have mentors?
Yeah, I mean, I think it does all those things. I think mentors can they can help you with so many things. They can help you develop new career skills, right? Actually looking at what you're doing well. You can help own your expertise, like through a mentor. I think they can help you largely with career pathing as well. How do you navigate your career, both in your organization and perhaps in your industry? They can help you understand your industry. They can help you understand where you can go, other options for career pathing in your industry. They can help you make connections in your organization, connections in your industry. One of the greatest things a mentor can do for you is to help you find opportunities, or to introduce you to people that can help you find opportunities or improve your skills. And also, if your mentor is in your organization, they can also be what we call a sponsor, right? They can help look out for you and introduce you to people and put you up for new positions and things like that. And I think when you have someone in your corner like that, whether it's in your organization or it's in your industry, I think having a cheerleader, someone in your corner, that coach, that mentor, I think that really helps you be more engaged with both your work, your profession, and hopefully your company culture, especially if the company is sponsoring a mentorship. We've seen a lot of engagement scores go up when people feel cared about and looked after and valued in their organization. So I think the benefits of mentoring are huge and multifaceted.
I love that. I love how everything that you said. I think also one other thing to add, but I think you probably agree with this, is empathy. Empathy for somebody else's work, about, especially if they're in a different department, helps you fully emotionally realize the pressures that they're under. I think I will constantly hear people say like, "Oh, XYZ person's trying to sabotage me at work." And it's like, people don't have the time to think about what would really frustrate Mary. I'm going to take actions out of my own way to frustrate Mary. When in reality, it's like, most people stick in their own lane and they're not conscious of the other people around them, or the tidal wave of how their actions impact other people around them.
Oh, I so agree with you. The ability for a mentor to help shift your perspective about things, to gain empathy for someone else is going on, that is so valuable. I know what the first mentor I had, she was a ninja at this. I'd like show it to our calls and I'd be like, well, so-and-so is trying to make my life miserable, or I suck at this or whatever. And she would say, all right, that's one way to look at it. What's another way to look at it? And I'm like, there's no other way to look at it. And she'd be like, yes, there are. You must come up with 5. And she literally made me like think about all the different ways to look at that situation from another person's point of view, from my point of view, from someone who worked for the other person. Like, it was such an amazing exercise, and it blew my mind because I thought there's only one way to look at anything. But suddenly I realized there are multiple viewpoints. So I think you're absolutely right. The perspective shifting that mentors can do is invaluable.
That's a really great story that you just shared. It shares a few things there. One, it must have been a mentor that you were close with, but not too close with. Because if you were too close with that person, you would probably say, why are you defending them? Why are you defending this person you don't even know? And 2, you also must respect them immensely to even participate in that sort of exercise, because it can be easy to be defensive in that sort of scenario. Especially when you're asked to empathize with somebody else that you feel like is frustrating you. So that's a really awesome story that you just shared, Mary.
Yeah, and one of the keys for that is when you're getting a mentor, is to really, we talk about designing the alliance. So really having these conversations up front about how our conversation is going to go. So some of my most successful mentors would say to me right from the beginning, here are some things I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you the truth about things. I'm going to give you feedback. I'm going to make you shift your perspective. And if you want this relationship to work, you're going to have to be open to that. So having some agreements around that. And they said, you may not agree with me, but you at least have to hear it. So if I would get defensive, they would call me on it. And so that I found that very helpful, because we all like to get defensive, because I do like to be right about everything. So it was very helpful. Yeah.
Exactly. No, that's a really good point. Now, one thing you brought up that I would love to swing back to is you brought up this concept of sponsorship versus mentorship. There is a difference.
Yeah.
In your perspective, what is that difference?
Yeah, so I think that, there's also a difference between coaching, right? So I think between sponsorship and mentorship, I think sponsorship is somebody, and I could be totally wrong. I think mentors are there to help you with your career, to help you with your technical skills, to help you with the industry, help guide you and give you ideas. I think sponsors are actively pulling you forward. So sponsors are actively connected to helping you in that organization or in that industry find new jobs, and they're kind of vouching for you. I think mentors take a little more behind the scenes role with you, a little bit more of an advisor, where a sponsor is literally advocating for you like an agent would. I know, what do you think the difference is?
I totally agree. I mean, how I define it is sponsor is a little more transactional, which is not a bad thing. I think when I say the term transactional, some people think that's a bad thing. It's not. But their role is to help you get to a better position than where you're at right now. That's what they're there. And typically a sponsor is someone who's like not just immediately ahead of you, but like typically 2, 3, 4, 5 spots ahead of you. So their ability to get you up faster holds a lot more weight when they're talking to the leadership within your company. So I want to be clear about that. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I love that. I was going to say, it's the mentor's transformational and the sponsor's transactional. I love that.
That's exactly it. Well, and I think that's where coaching comes in, because I think coaching is actually maybe closer aligned to transformational. I would say mentors more along the lines of empathy, of just having someone that you can bond with, you can share with, you can be vulnerable with. They might not be in the position where they can help you get that next promotion. They might, but they might not. But I think really what they can do is they can help be that confidant for you, that person that you can go to speak with. I'm a big believer in that oxytocin. I would align mentorship a lot of times with that oxytocin. Oxytocin is the chemical in our brain that makes us feel happy when we're around people that we enjoy being around.
I would agree. I think that I would completely agree with you. That's the difference in coaching and mentoring. When I think of coaches, I think of, we're here to help you improve this kind of skill, or we're help you to improve this, or we're here to help you take this problem and fix it and look to the future. And I agree with you. Mentoring is much more about the empathy, the relationship, the support, the ongoing. It kind of comes out of love. And plus, we pay coaches. We don't pay our mentors. Mentors do it because of the goodness of their hearts. I think there's a deeper relationship there.
That's exactly it. That's awesome. No, that makes a lot of sense. So we're down to our last couple of questions. And the first of those questions is, what tips or strategies do you have for any people that are thinking about starting mentoring relationships but haven't quite taken the leap yet, or they have a couple barriers that are standing in front of them? What suggestions do you have to help them get started?
All right, I got a couple here. First of all, look in your company. A lot of companies, as you know, because you've run some of these programs, a lot of companies are actually creating mentoring programs. So if they offer it, look to it. If they don't, go talk to the HR person. Also, look in your industry. Go to events. Find people you admire. Find people whose career you like, or who you just like as a person. You like their work. So look around. As I said earlier, don't think it has to be one big mentoring relationship. Start small, baby steps. Reach out to somebody, ask for an introduction, go have coffee with somebody, pick their brain a little bit, but don't use the expression, I want to pick your brain, because people like me hate that. Say instead, I'd love to learn more about what you do. When you do that, then you have to make it easy for people to help you. So if I was going to call you Garrett, and I'd be like, oh, Garrett, I'm so fascinated by what you do. I would love to learn more. Could I have 15 minutes of your time? And you, being fabulous, would say yes. Now I need to make it easy for you to give me that 15 minutes, right? So I'm going to set up the call, or I'm going to come to you, or I might buy you coffee, and I'm going to come on time with an agenda. Here are the questions I really want to ask you about. You got to show right from the start that you are going to use their time wisely. So that's what I'd say. If you're really afraid, start with baby steps. Reach out to people you really know and like, and ask them to have coffee. And pick their brain without saying pick your brain.
Great note on the pick your brain things. I totally agree with you. And I guess maybe, so then it could be very clear to those people that are really on the fence, what are the consequences of putting yourself out there and asking for a conversation? Like, what's the worst that could possibly happen from doing that?
The worst that can happen is they're going to say no. Or the worst that's going to happen is they're going to say no. And who cares? But here's the thing. They're not going to think any less of you. They're actually going to be flattered. I'm always flattered when people reach out to me. And I'm a nobody. Everybody is flattered. And they're going to actually feel bad about saying no. They'll do their best to do whatever they can for you. But here's probably what's going to happen. They'll either agree to it, 15-minute call, or they're going to be like, you know what, I don't have time, but my assistant or my VP or someone else could have time. Like, they will do everything they can to make it happen. When I started writing my book, I literally reached out to a very, very famous author and asked if I could have 15 minutes of her time, because her book was all about, like, you know, how to be a badass. And I got this really nice note from one of her assistants that said, you know what, so-and-so would love to meet with you. Unfortunately, she is just, you know, since the success of her book, she doesn't have the time. Please reach out again in another year if you're still what is something. It was really nice. I was a little disappointed, but it wasn't like I didn't die. I didn't even think about it more than once, but, you know, so yeah. So just do it. Be brave. People want to help.
Did you end up following up with that author?
No, I didn't. But you know, but I actually realized I found another author that gave me some advice. But it was a really big, I mean, she's very famous. It was a really big leap. I was just proud of myself for actually doing it. And I got a really, really nice note in return. So just put yourself out there. The worst that can happen is they're going to say no. I got this advice once from somebody when I was starting my first consulting gig. And they're like, you're never going to get a yes unless you're willing to hear no's. So unless you're willing to hear a no, you're never going to get a yes. So go ahead and ask.
Great point. And I think even on top of that, the one area that I'd even challenge you is, even no matter who the author is, no matter who the person is, I'm a big believer in don't be afraid to punch above your weight class.
I totally agree. I love that, because you'd be surprised how many people are afraid to reach out to you because you are in a bigger weight class. And the truth is, there's a whole lot of people just waiting to do something like this. I just participated in this event called Mentoring Monday with the American City Business Journals. And I was amazed. They bring like 50 prominent female leaders into this room, and everybody gets like 5-6 minute mentoring meetings. But I was shocked at some of the women that came to this event, like way above my weight, like huge, because they do want to give back. And if we can make it easy for people to give back, you make it easy, they will give back to you.
So true. That's awesome. Well, Mary, how can our audience connect with you? How can our audience learn more about who you are, what you do?
They can email you to find me, or they can find me on Twitter at Mary Abbajay, or Instagram at Mary Abbajay, or Facebook at making it real easy for everybody at Mary Abbajay, LinkedIn Mary Abbajay, or come to my company's website, which is www.careerstonegroup.com, or my book, Managing Up, and that's how they can find me. And please reach out. Don't call me because I don't answer the phone, but if you email me or you tweet me or you LinkedIn me, you have a better chance of getting hold of me.
That's awesome. Mary, thank you so much for joining me on this. This was excellent.
Garrett, you are a delight, and I'm so proud and impressed with everything you do. As I said in the beginning, I love seeing young people taking over the world, and I just say go for it. I'm going to be really enjoying watching your career soar and your business soar, so it's been an honor to meet you.
I appreciate you. Thank you.